Welcome back, everyone. This is part 13 on what if the Transformers were in high school. DXD. I do not own the Transformers and DXD or any of the characters in this video. Chapter 8. Your choice. It boggles the mind. Izzy couldn't believe that this million-of-year-old transmission that had been on loop since the dinosaurs roamed the earth was made by his reality's version of the very Cybertronian that nearly killed him over a week ago. He couldn't believe he was listening to his reality's Megatron. There was plenty of static, blaring alarms, explosions, and pained screams of agony in the background of the message. I send this message in hopes that you do not share the same fate as Cybertron. We were fools, all of us. War ravaged our world to where we now face total extinction, without the power of our very life-giver, Zerkt. Both Autobots and Decepticons are already dead. Though we still function, everyone looked at this Megatron with disbelief and disdain. This Megatron is a complete 180 personality-wise. Riaz could tell that this Megatron was more like Optimus by the tone of his voice, but her emotions were very negative and she wore them plainly on her face. Especially when she remembers that traumatic event when Izzy faced the Megatron she met face to face. She briefly snapped out of her negative thoughts when she noticed how the 4 Teenage Mutant Turtles, Sean, Rosa, and Twilight seemed especially focused on this Megatron. Like they are trying to figure out his whole deal. Like they knew something about this Megatron, Zerkt. By the time you probably get this message cough 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 we would already be dead and the Cybertronian race would be practically extinct. Zerkt, I beg you. Don't make the same mistake as we did. Don't become like Nemesis Prime. There was suddenly an explosion and the feed instantly went to static. Riaz looked pretty unnerved. She wondered how far did her universe's Transformers take their war to result in that kind of destruction she witnessed from Skylynx's transmission. She only saw it for a brief moment. But when that Megatron said Nemesis Prime, the 4 turtles, Rosa, and Twilight's eyes lit up like they had an aha moment. But it was clear that they still have yet to truly figure out the puzzle. I don't get it. Who is this Nemesis Prime this Megatron was talking about? A 903 asked, his question at the moment being answered by Bumblebee, shrugging his shoulders in an I do not know kind of manner. Nemesis Prime, where have I heard that before? Rosa said to herself, quiet enough to escape everyone's ears, but Kaneko's pretty strange. Don't you think so, Optimus Prime? Skylynx asked as another Autobot who didn't sound very familiar to Izzy said, yep, I knew it. The cons have listened in on that emergency transmission. Better cut off communications for now if we're gonna discuss this any further. The transmission was cut off, and then everyone in the hospital room were left alone, trying to figure out what exactly happened. At the same time. At the Decepticon base under Chernobyl. Background noise, hidden base. Megatron wasn't very pleased. He demanded loudly, WHAT is the meaning of this trickery. Starscream cowered as he said, if you recall, Lord Megatron, there's the matter of different realities, different versions of all of us. This could be you if you were more like an Autobot. Megatron seemed unimpressed, and he looked at the time stamp of when the video transmission was created. He said unremarkably by Earth time. This was made during the Cretaceous period of Earth's prehistory. The fact that Cybertron was destroyed in this reality makes it all too clear what happened. Scrapper, leader of the Constructicons, asked the obvious question. So, are all Cybertronians in this reality extinct? And, what are we going to do about that dragon guy? Megatron said, highly likely. But it's more likely that the ship we found evidence of crashing on Earth has Decepticon survivors. And if I convince them that I am that Megatron, we will have an advantage against Prime and the Autobots. A serpentine voice came from the ceiling. Asses for the boy, Scrackrapper. I have just come up with a brilliant plan. The voice's owner dropped from the very tall ceiling and landed on its feet. It was the size of a man and was black and red all over its body. Starscream groaned as he silently complained, oh great, not this lunatic again. Megatron's eyes narrowed as he acknowledged the being. Carnage. What would a nemesis of that wall-crawling menace of a hero have in mind for one of the most powerful beings on the planet? Carnage of Marvel Comics fame was a somewhat splotchy creature that looked like a twisted, nightmarish perversion of Spider-Man. His head had a fanged mouth that had a Joker-esque grin permanently on his face, and spikes along his arms. Carnage answered Megatron, simply bring the boy under our control. Soundwave interjected, impossible. The dragons sealed in the Longinus prevent the wielders from any kind of mind control. Carnage snapped. If you'll let me finish. We have other ways to put him under our control. Megatron looked suspiciously at Carnage and asked, "What are you planning? What is it you want for telling us?" Carnage started to chuckle as he replied, "My host wants to kill. We are in a dimension full of victims waiting to be slaughtered. I want to feed this hunger. I want to hear their screams. Also, Spider-Man came with Optimus Prime, and I want to kill him." Soundwave acknowledged who Carnage was referring to, a serial killer from that superhero reality named Cletus Kasady, a seriously unhinged psychopath, especially after bonding with the Carnage symbiote. Megatron didn't take long to figure out what Carnage was hinting, and asked, "Tell me what you have in mind." Carnage leaped up to Megatron and whispered into the Decepticon leader's ear. Megatron's stern expression turned into a sadistic, evil grin, as he remarked, "Yes, this is an excellent idea, Carnage. But to ensure the Autobots and their allies don't catch wind of our plans, no thanks to one trooper who managed to get himself captured by Stark, we will need to spread them thin." Starscream confidently said with a bow, "Allow me to enact Carnage's plan, Lord Megatron." Hearing this, Megatron snapped back severely. "You had your chance already, Starscream. Because of your blunder the last time, you allowed the Autobots to secure all the Prime Cores from our clutches. No, Sixit and the Predacons will secure our recruit. You will take over the Predacons' search for the crashed ship on this Earth. At least you can't possibly screw up such an easy task." Sixit overheard and replied, "It shall be done, Megatron. Where is our target located?" Megatron provided Sixit the details, appointing Razorclaw the leader of the operation, and Sixit will be his lieutenant. Sixit left immediately as Soundwave transmitted the order to the 5 Decepticons, but the green and white multi-changer asked before he left, "If I may, before we head out for this recruitment assignment, could I verify the Red Dragon Emperor's worth for Carnage's plan?" Megatron knew what Sixit meant, and answered, "You may, but I will have to get the two of you alone for you to attempt this course of action." Sixit bowed and then left without another word. Starscream seethed with jealousy as he thought, "Bah, that Sixit thinks he's all that because his failure count is null. And that thing, organic creatures are so disgusting. Especially that wretch Carnage. To think Megatron had to rely on humans and other organic life forms to match the Autobots' allies." Megatron then said as he pushed a button on a computer console, "Shockwave, prepare a container to trap a certain creature. The basis for this cage, tech-proof, it cannot absorb any technology. Is that clear?" Shockwave answered without a hint of hesitation. "At once, Lord Megatron." Megatron then turned to Blackout, and said to him, "Bring me the Combaticons, I need them for an assignment." Underworld, Gremory Manor, 9:02 a.m., Tokyo Standard Time. The next day, your choice, training. Izzy was sitting cross-legged in the little fighting area of the massive Gremory estate. He was thinking of a plan of attack against his sparring partner. He left the hospital earlier in the morning and was cleared to do some physical activities. He instantly asked to train. To get back at Megatron, Optimus hesitantly obliged and asked Sean Hashimoto to train Izzy in his unique fighting styles, which has resulted in what's happening now. Sean stood still like a statue, eyes closed as he started a quick breathing exercise to help focus his mind. Riaz, her peerage, Rosa, and a few of the Autobots, Windblade, Wheeljack, Bumblebee, DO02, First Aid, and Jazz watched from a balcony near the battlefield, observing the sparring match. Sean couldn't believe he was ordered by Optimus Prime to train Izzy in martial arts, especially in his special style tailored for fighting Cybertronians. Sean questioned why. Especially since Optimus knew he already had a pupil in martial arts, and he was strictly a one-student teacher. The Pokémon trainer sighed in his mind as he readied to teach Izzy his fighting style. But first, this was the first sparring match, to see how well Izzy can fight, and for Sean to see how much he has to teach the perverted teenager. Drake spoke to Izzy. "You should, for now, keep your distance and accumulate power before you strike Izzy. Then, you pursue your attack relentlessly. Don't give him even a minute to catch his breath." Izzy replied to the Welch dragon, "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who says defeated Decepticons more powerful than Soundwave. I could if I had my full power." The dragon replied with a slight hint of sarcasm. Izzy growled softly as he said, "He has lightning powers and dragon powers from that Zekrom Pokémon he had. He's more dragon than I am." Sean interrupted by commenting, "You know I'm aware of everything you two are saying, even if you whisper or speak telepathically." Izzy flinched as he then said to his partner, "See, even he can read minds like that Soundwave guy." Sean corrected, I actually can't read minds, it's more like inference and guesses based on the neurons firing through your brain, Hudu. Being able to utilize electricity affords me with the ability to feel the electrical impulses the brain gives out. And Drake's strategy is a sound one. Between us even now, you're the stronger one, Issy, by a large margin. But being stronger doesn't always mean you win. Riaz looked at Rosa and asked her, what does your husband mean by that? Issy's the stronger of the two. I've seen him fight that blackout copter Decepticon, and he won that fight pretty soundly. Even if he said it was dumb luck, Windblade answered for the Pokémon trainer. His control over electricity through the use of Zekrum's power makes him a formidable opponent, Miss Gremory. Using that power, he has managed to tag powerful beings like Superman, but he's better at dodging them than facing them on offense. He's also a pretty well-known practitioner of the art of using his opponent's strengths against them. You know, counters? He frequently uses their force or power to make his opponents hit themselves. He was trained by some nebulous master of all martial arts over 5 years ago. Wheeljack added as he watched the training match through his drone's scanners. It's not like he can't throw punches or kick strong enough to break metal, or harm a Super Saiyan. The only fight I've ever seen the kid fight on a purely offensive basis was against that pile of crap, Bowser, in the Infinite Dimension. And he fought less like a martial artist, and more like a beast against that Koopa. He fought Bowser, Mario's arch-nemesis, Irina exclaimed, as Sean overheard and playfully added, and beat him in a fistfight. Yeah, but you wound up with crippling injuries that lasted a few days because you traded blows with that monster tortoise. Rosa added, which made Sean blush in slight embarrassment. And it's because of that, Goku said Super Saiyan likes Hashimoto as a sparring partner or his Pokémon. Not only are Sean's Pokémon very powerful, but also because he's a different kind of opponent than the ones he usually faces, that or his Pokémon. Wheeljack stated as Issy took advantage of the fact that Sean was distracted. Issy pulled his arm back as he attempted to throw a full-powered punch, but Sean moved his head out of the way, grabbed Issy's arm, then threw him face first into one of the pillars. Issy tried to get back on his feet as quickly as possible, but his instructor didn't give him the opportunity. Sean quickly struck Issy at pressure points with his fingers and threw him over to the center of the arena. The boy groaned in agony at the pain he's feeling, groaning so loudly that Asia wanted to rush to Issy's side and heal him. Sean noticed and said, "Don't worry, Argento. He doesn't need to be healed. And please, ladies, refrain yourselves from interrupting the training session. If you do, Issy will never become strong enough to fight the Decepticons or any of the myriad of supervillains they've allied themselves with or conquered into submission. Asia sighed heavily, the former nun trying to resist helping Issy per Sean's instructions. She noticed that Irina, Koneko, Zenobia, Akano, and Riaz were looking very eager to jump in and help Issy too. Riaz and Akano looking the most, how shall we say, tense, in watching their object of affection getting beat up. Sean walked up to the writhing Gremory pawn and said, "That pain is agonizing, huh? Well, too bad it only feels as bad as you think. And why is that?" Issy squeezed out in between hisses. Sean answered, "What I've done is strike specific pressure points on your body in a specific order. This has the trick of fooling your nervous system into thinking it is in more pain than you actually are in." "Huh?" Issy exclaimed, to which Sean explained, "Trust me when I say this, getting decked by a transformer is no fun at all. I know that feeling all too well. Even with that armor of yours, this is more or less the same level of pain you would feel getting punched by a warrior-class Vehicon trooper. Megatron is leagues stronger than that, and you were able to fight him decent enough that time because your mind was firing off practically lethal amounts of adrenaline to compensate. This ultimately had the downside of wearing your body out quickly, which was why when the Decepticon leader skewered you like a shish kebab, you nearly bit the dust." With one more pressure point strike, Sean stopped Issy's nervous system from overstimulating pain. Sean continued, "Obviously anyone could have died from having a tree run through their stomachs, but the adrenaline would have made your heart fail. And that's not as easy to come back from. Even with some overcharged healing, you clearly have a guardian angel watching over you, even as a devil. If that is the case," Issy snapped after gasping and coughing with relief, "then, what's the point of this whole thing?" Sean answered, "Because letting your emotions run wild against a former gladiator, like Megatron, is like trying to stop a speeding Shinkansen with a plastic fork. It's just a bad idea, period. Especially in stressful situations. It's like a self-fulfilling defeat." Sean helped Issy to his feet, and Zenobia asked Sean from the balcony, What are you gonna teach Issy? Hashimoto. Sean looked up to Zenobia and answered, I'll teach him as much as time, or the Decepticons, let me. Before that, however, I need to teach Hudu how to focus. Issy felt a little insulted as he interrupted. Hey, I can focus. Before the boob dragon emperor could register what happened, he fell on his back onto the floor hard. It may work for you in terms of powering up, but it is abundantly clear that the Waves Soundwave and Shockwave have already figured that out. Megatron knows as well because of that, and he will not allow you to activate that power by touching breasts. Being offered a reward for beating them does not help against the Decepticons either. Both distract you, and against the likes of Sixit, every nanosecond you give in the battle will help. I'm going to teach you first, Hudu, how to focus only on the battle, the here and now. After that, it will be on how to use different fighting forms. Then, I'll teach you how to maximize your power efficiently. Issy looked at Sean confused and asked, what do you mean by that? Sean coyly smirked as Windblade answered for him. It's pretty obvious that it wouldn't matter if he told you right away, Issy. So just follow his instructions and then you'll figure it out. Bingo, Windblade, Sean said with a thumbs up. Sean then put Issy into a fighting stance before getting a few yards in front of him and assumed a fighting stance himself. Your choice. Conversations? Zenobia seemed to contemplate what Sean was talking about regarding focusing on the battle. She can't help but feel it sounded familiar. Begin, Sean shouted as he and Issy sparred once again. Twilight walked up to the group and said, Hey guys, what's going on? Rosa smiled at the new arrival and answered, Oh, nothing too big. Just my husband is training that pervert in martial arts under Optimus orders. Twilight seemed quite surprised as she asked, Really? Huh? I thought Smolder was his pupil, and that he preferred to take on one apprentice at a time. Riaz and the other devils and Angel looked at Twilight with confused looks. Rosa and Twilight talked to each other a bit more in the middle of Issy getting pummeled by Sean, but not without the boob lover landing a few good licks to his mentor. The Autobots observing joined in as well, naming people, places, and events that flew over their heads. Riaz, ever so curious, asked, Hey Twilight, who is this Smolder you said Sean had as a pupil? Twilight looked at Riaz and answered the heir's question. Oh, sorry. Smolder is a dragon and a student of mine back in my home dimension, which also is the Autobots and Decepticons' home dimension. True that, homie. Bumblebee spoke through the radio, which made Twilight giggle. Huh, Sean did mention that very thing, Kaiba remarked, and he also said that this isn't what you actually look like. Mind explaining that, Issy wound up punching himself in the stomach hard thanks to Sean redirecting his fist. The punch was loud and the pervert's agonizing groans made it sound really painful. Painful enough for DO2 to comment and place her hands on her stomach. Ooh, that looks like it hurt. Jazz added, I agree with ya. I would not like to be in his place right now. Most of the present Autobots focused on the sparring match, as Twilight explained her situation with the Autobots to Riaz and her group. Well, I go by Nutella Light when I look like a human, but my real name is Twilight Sparkle. Back home, I am actually a pony. A pony? Irina mimed, a little in disbelief, to which Twilight responded, Yes, more specifically, I am an alicorn. To best explain what that is, think of a winged unicorn with tons of magic, Akano remarked. Sounds spectacular. I would love to see that, Rosa added. She is spectacular to see as an alicorn. Twilight comes from a land of magic called Equestria. In that world, there are all sorts of mythological creatures that live there, like griffins and dragons, but they're not like the ones you have here. Equestria's main population are talking magic ponies, further divided into primarily 3 types: unicorns, pegasi, and earth ponies. Twilight said next. Tony Stark once described my world when it was first described to him. Sounds like a 5-year-old girl's fantasies of magic and horses come to life, a cavity, if you ask me, or something like that, Koneko remarked. Sounds boring. It may sound boring, but it isn't all rainbows and fluffy clouds, it's got quite a muddy history. Rosa replied, Have any of you heard of a toy line called My Little Pony before? Riaz answered Rosa, I have not heard of such a toy line before, Ross Weiss said. I have. It was immensely popular in the 1980s in America, but it hasn't taken off in recent years. Why? Twilight explained. That's more or less where my reality is built on. Except, there are no humans in Equestria in some realities. My world is based on a 4th generation of that toy line, Zenobia exclaimed over Sean and Issy roaring in their match. Oh, no wonder your name sounded so familiar. I've heard of those toys before, and your name rang a bell in my mind, but I couldn't place it anywhere until now. Riaz asked Twilight, can you show us your true form? Twilight quickly explained, that's a no, because of some dimensional, space-time. What's it's more of a default camouflage when crossing dimensions. Palkia explained that this is more or less what my original form would look like when translated into a human from Sean and Rose's world. Think, that Kingdom Hearts game and what happens to the playable characters when they enter certain worlds, only it's not done with magic. Riaz shrugged and said, well, that's a shame. I would have loved to see what an alicorn looked like. Koneko bluntly asked Twilight, is it weird to find out your entire world is a toy world to other people? Twilight nervously chuckled as she answered, yes it was. But I've gotten used to the idea. Because hey, to other people, your reality is a story to them and vice versa sometimes. But it doesn't make your world any less real. That's what Palkia said to me, and in some sense, my friends both in Equestria and the Earth Sean and Rosa are from are this multiverse peacekeeping force's first real recruits. Before Optimus was appointed leader, who can really say what is or isn't real at that point? The idea seemed to linger a little with the natives, but they quickly got over it thanks to how Twilight explained it. They also remembered that whole infinite number of realities thing the Autobots explained earlier and figured that makes this whole questioning your existence thing seem minor. Yamai. Laughter and merriment. Kingdom Hearts EI. Everyone's attention was redirected to the boys duking it out on the battlefield. The shouting came from Sean and they saw the ground littered in upturned boulders and craggy craters. Sean seemed to have a broken arm, as his left arm was limp and held tightly by his right hand. Issy was on his back, legs splayed out, and he huffed heavily with exhaustion. Okay, Hudo. That's enough for the day, Sean said, trying hard to hide the pain he's in. You just wait, Issy proclaimed in labored breaths. I'll show you what I'm made of, but for now I need to lie down for a week. Sean chuckled a little at that statement, replying, well, one thing is for sure. You are much stronger than I gave you credit for. Learn to use that strength better, and you may give Megatron a few good hits and next time you clash. Sean immediately tensed up when he heard Rosa shout in a demanding way. Sean, did you break your arm again? Sean nervously replied with an equally nervous smile. Not really. I just landed on it funny, and now it's angry with me. Ha ha ha. Rosa angrily snapped. You better not be lying to me. You broke it 7 times this past month, and I'm sick of it. You hear? Yes, ma'am. Ooch. Sean stood straight like a soldier and saluted with his right arm, then crouched down in pain from his sore body. Issy laughed even though he was in just as much pain, saying, haha. Guess you're not the one who wears the pants in the marriage. Oh. The pain. Windblade and First Aid got down to help the two. Asia healed Issy while Rosa lectured Sean as he ate some kind of bean that rapidly healed his wounds. DOO2 remarked after looking through her memory banks, you two seem to be more alike than you think based on what I've seen. I am not like that jerk. Both Issy and Sean shouted and pointed at each other, then regretted it when both Rosa and Rhea slapped their thighs once and made the two of them hiss in pain. You be quiet, Rosa said sternly to Sean, less like her husband and more like her misbehaving child. Rhea's added in a similar tone, not wanting Issy to make things worse for him. That's enough excitement for the two of you. Twilight laughed and said, I've heard that two boys of similar personalities tend to share similar interests and become best friends over time. Hey, Sean huffed. I'm no sick little pervert like him. Them's fighting words, buddy. Issy replied, you know nothing about the beauty of the female's body. Rhea's pinched Issy's cheek hard as Rosa replied, oh yes, he does. He's married to me. Unlike a bachelor like you, I'm not even into chicks, and I can respect what you two are dropping down on the floor. Jazz added, making everyone present laugh. Grimlock could hear them from the courtyard, looking at the structure with disdain as he quietly said, careless weaklings. Swoop knew what Grimlock said as they both headed to talk with Rhea's brother and father, but he pretended he didn't hear it that well and replied, what did you say, bud? It sounded like an insult to Rosa. Grimlock tensed up at the mention of the female Pokémon trainer, as Swoop added, she asked me to let her know if you give her any lip. Not wanting to get on her bad side, I'll just let her know. Swoop was grabbed by the shoulders as Grimlock pleaded quite nervously, please don't tell her. Yeah no, Grimlock, you really should watch what you say about our friends, even if you don't think of them as such. Imagine what might have happened if Rosa did hear what you just said. If Transformers could sweat, Grimlock would be drenched in sweat more than a swimmer in a pool. He knew better than to mess with that woman, but he couldn't place why. He did imagine, and what happened made the gargantuan Dinobot shudder in fear. Grimlock replied after the thought, "You make good point. Hey, you know I'm right," Swoop said as he put his arm on Grimlock's shoulder. "You don't even remember the last time you crossed that female's wires. If you did, you would be horribly embarrassed with the butt-kicking she gave you. She terrified slug of all bots, over." Grimlock asked, trying to remember why me saying her kids are dumb. Swoop seemed hesitant, and replied, "Yeah, let's get going. Let's not keep Gremory Squared waiting any longer." The two Dinobots headed off to see Cerzix and Zeoticus, unaware that Drift was watching them with observant eyes. End of the video. Hello everyone. It's been a while since the last time I talked to you, but understand right now, if you have been following this series, you would know some chapters or suicide nearly all them. Either way, he would normally took to parts just for one chapter, but this one would take why more than just 2 part to end this chapter. Also one more thing, this is the final chapter, but not the final part. Either way, I have to end this video now. Link down to the comments if you want to read the rest of the story. I hope you all enjoy. Goodbye.